If you've watched automotive YouTube content for a while, then you probably will recognize this S650 Mustang. This car belongs to Gavin, aka It's Just a 6. He picked it up brand new and has definitely been put through its paces over the years. From suspension parts to exhaust, all the way to headers and a crazy Whipple supercharger kit, this car has seen multiple variations and modifications. Most of these changes have happened since I've been the editor of the It's Just a 6 YouTube channel, which has been for about a year and a half now. I've been around this car a lot, but now it's a little different. Gavin gave me the car. Well, sort of. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you've been subscribed for a long time, thank you for sticking around since I haven't posted in like over a year, I think. Last video I posted was with my S550 Mustang. Before it had anything done to it, I filmed a video with that car whenever I sold it to buy my Shelby GT350, and then I filmed a video with the Shelby buying it, and then I sold the Shelby since then. So I haven't posted in that long. I do have videos of that stuff if you guys would want to see it. However, that's not what this video is about today. The reason I have this car is because after I sold my Shelby, for reasons I'll talk about in the future, I got a truck, and after I got the truck, after a few days, it wouldn't start. It was a starter issue. Took it to the Ford. They also found some transmission stuff that was covered under warranty, so they're gonna take care of that for me. Also, cam phasers need to be done on that truck. Again, because when it had them done before, they used the wrong parts on it, or I guess not the wrong parts, but not the updated parts that they have now. So, my truck's down for a bit, and Gavin was nice enough to bring me the S650 to let me borrow it. Just gonna give my thoughts on it. I'm very grateful that Gavin let me borrow this car, and I'm excited to see what I think about it. I'm filming this intro after I already did it, so I already know what I think, but you'll have to wait until the end of the video to get my final thoughts. So if you're new here, I'd love if you stuck around. If we get enough people on this channel, I might start posting more. I've got plenty of ideas and stuff that I could film. I'd probably be truck stuff for a while, but I do plan on buying back my S550 Mustang that was supercharged if the owner will sell it back to me. Anthony, if you're watching this, good luck with the NFL draft. I hope you get drafted so I can buy my car back. All that being said, let's hop into the video and we'll see what I think about this car. Apologize in advance if the framing's weird or if it's shaky. I had the front-facing camera at first so I could see myself. Now it's on the back camera because I think it has built-in stabilization. Anyway, we're gonna continue on. I haven't done like a car review in a long time. Whenever I used to do it, I was like 17, so yeah, 10 years ago now, and I got fried online. So I'm gonna give my thoughts on this car. If you don't know about this car, it's a 2024 Mustang GT. It's race red. It is a premium, and I believe it's a performance package, but don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. It could just have the Brembo package. I think that you could get it separately. I'm not too well versed on S650s. I'm more of an S550 guy myself. Other than that, this car does have the manual transmission, which is the MT82, and it also has an MGW shifter, which feels pretty good. So far, first impressions, it feels pretty smooth. It's lowered on, I believe, Steeda lowering springs. I'll have to put it on screen somewhere if I'm wrong on that, but they feel pretty good. Same springs I had on my S550. It has the Valvetronic exhaust, which I'll probably close while I'm on the highway, so you can kind of hear the drone right now probably. Just close the valves, really quiet. It's honestly really quiet on a cold start when you have it in the quiet mode. So this car does have pretty much full exhaust. So catless headers, X-pipe, and then the Valvetronic exhaust. It's got that, modern muscle wheels, and then we are on some Nitto NT555 R2s, which are much better than the G2s I had on a few of my cars. The grip feels pretty good. It's a little vague in the corners, but these are more for straight line speed, which we'll get into here in a second, because this car also does have a Whipple supercharger on it. If you're familiar with the S650s, there's not really tuning unlocked. Through Whipple, there's kind of like a base tune, I guess, and you can run 93. I don't know what type of power this car is making. If I had to guess, I'd say like mid-7s-ish. Overall, it feels familiar to an S550. However, I think I might have a lot of people disagree with me. Some people might agree though. I, after living with this car for a bit, prefer the S550 interior in the form that I had it. So on my GT, I had the Premium Plus package, so pretty much everything you could get on the interior. The only thing I didn't have was Recaros, and that was on purpose. I didn't want them. The base seats in these cars, or base seats, the comfort seats are really, really comfortable, and I like having the heated and cooled option, and they hold you good enough for most of what you'll be doing. The Recaros just aren't very comfortable, especially on long drives. So decided not to get that. The car also didn't have the B&O sound system, which I didn't think I was missing out that much until I got my Shelby, which had it. I read online that those systems were not great, not worth it, but to me, you know, I'm not like well versed in the audio world, but to me it was a worthwhile difference for what you pay from the factory for that new system. So I didn't have that either, but I did have digital dash. It was a performance pack, so it had the center gauges that tell you, the center analog gauges I should say, which had oil pressure and vacuum, and I like having those gauges as analog. The digital dash was the perfect mixture of the retro styling but with modern features. And honestly, I like the gauge design more for all the different modes than the S650. These gauges bore me to death. I don't know why. I don't like the look of this giant screen. I hate how cars are going towards that. I think the S550 was the perfect interior on a Mustang. I really do. I started out with a 68 Mustang and a 66, and so I'm pretty, I guess, tied to the classic styling, which is why I really liked S197s. I got used to the S550 and thought it looked really good, but I still think that this could have been designed better. Quality-wise, it doesn't feel that much different than the S550. I mean, like this leather, the stitching on the console, it's not as soft touch as the S550 was. It's got some like carbon fiber-ish looking trim, which isn't my favorite. Just overall, I'm not impressed enough to trade in an S550 for this car. There's also maybe some quality issues that I can hear, some creaks and rattles. This window, if you're driving and it doesn't roll up just right, it will have like kind of a wind noise coming in, and that was driving me crazy. Luckily, it's not doing it right now. This is an early 2024 car, so, you know, they might not have dialed in build quality just yet. But overall, the interior, I'm not like super impressed with. Clutch feel is pretty solid, like all new Mustangs are. The brake pedal in this car specifically feels a little bit spongy compared to the Shelby that I had, which surprised me since this really has bigger brakes, or at least improved brakes all around. I think the interior could be a little bit better. I do like having a bigger screen for CarPlay. For the Mustang, I would rather have the smaller screen, the 8-inch one that I had in my S550, because it gives you everything you need, but it isn't really intrusive. This whole display just kind of takes up too much of the dash for my liking. I'm also partial to the 10-speed. The 10-speed was really great in my S550 with boost. It was just unreal. The car just kept pulling, and I loved it. So the MT82 gets a really bad rep. I personally have never had an MT82 problem. I think they're really good transmissions if you drive them right, and if you have a different clutch spring in and a short shifter. That seems to remedy a lot of the problems. I did have issues getting locked out of third quite often in those transmissions whenever I had them. The new MT82s, I'm not too familiar on problems that they have. I will say, I do like the auto rev matching downshifts, which you can't hear because I have the valves closed. Let me open those back up for you guys. We're gonna go ahead and do a little pull, just a small one, to give you guys kind of a feel and give me a feel too, but yeah, it feels good. It definitely pulls pretty hard. That being said, I don't feel like it pulls quite as fast as my S550 did, obviously, because it had the 10-speed. It's just able to stay in the power band so much easier with the fast shifts, and I really, really liked it. I still feel like this is a pretty quick car for what it is. Once tuning's unlocked on these cars, they'll be great. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off onto a back road and kind of give you an impression on handling, and then we'll get back on the highway later and go ahead and do a couple more pulls. I think this car has mag ride, so I'm gonna go ahead and change the mode. I'll just do sport mode. I don't want it to be too stiff, because if it's too stiff in these cars, like in track mode, you can run into some wheel hop issues. This car does have quite a bit of the Steeda catalog suspension wise, so that does help with the wheel hop, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. It's not my car, so I don't want to go too crazy with anything. I really do love the rev matching, the auto rev matching. It's such a nice feature. It makes me feel like I'm a better driver. I'm terrible at heel towing. I'm good at rev matching, but I'm bad at heel towing. So it is a welcome feature to have that whenever you're on the back roads especially. Like I said, the tires on this car aren't necessarily for the corners, but it should still do pretty well. It's a relatively warm day for being February. It's 67 degrees out, so I figured we might as well take advantage of the weather and get out and go ahead and test this thing out. One of my friends lives right over off this road, so I'll be curious to see if he hears me. And this car is really loud with the valves open. Crack the window so you can maybe hear it more. Gavin's made some pretty bold claims about the handling of this car, so we'll see. I I gotta say, it does feel pretty good. The turn and response is really solid. You hardly have to give any input. I wish that the steering would tighten up a little bit more when you change modes. It feels different, but it's not as much as you would expect. Like in my S550 and in the Shelby, it was a huge difference. And it is possible maybe I'm not feeling it quite as much on this car because of the tire setup, but it's really hard to say. Unfortunately, I'm stuck behind some slower cars right now, so I can't really test it that well. I might drop back and give myself some room and see if we can hit some corners here in a minute. I wish you could hear the blower more as well. It's relatively quiet, at least from inside the car. That is one thing I liked about my S550 on the ESS setup, just the sound of the blower. It sounded crazy all the time. The blow-off sound was nuts. And I did like the power delivery on that. It was very linear. However, the instant torque on this is very nice. I can see how if you're not a great driver, though, you could get into trouble with a car like this, especially since you can just walk into a dealership and buy a Whipple S650 with a warranty. That is a little scary because, everybody knows about the Mustang memes. I can't speak for the steering wheel on the interior of the car, now that I think about it, because this does have a C2 custom steering wheel, which I do really like a lot. Generally, I don't like aftermarket wheels. I'm a fan of like a factory flat bottom Alcantara steering wheel. However, this one with the red stitching to match the car and the black Mustang logo and the carbon fiber on it and the red stripe up top, it's pretty tasteful. It doesn't feel like too chunky or thick. It feels like about the right thickness that you would want. Gives you pretty good confidence whenever you're going into corners as well, I would say. And it's perforated leather too, so you don't have to worry about your hands getting like too sweaty or anything. Visibility, as with all Mustangs, is pretty good. You can barely see the wing popping up back there, which I think is the Performance Pack one now that I think about it. So it does have the Performance Pack. This also, I believe, has the Night Pony package, which is just kind of black accents, black roof, badges, headlight housings, all that type of stuff, which is pretty cool. I can appreciate that. There's a really good twisty portion of the road coming up, and I think we'll be able to kind of hit that at a decent pace now, get a good feel for this car. All right, here we go. I know you can't see it, but this is a pretty sharp corner. We're doing about 70 right now. Really want to be delicate on the throttle input on this car since I'm not used to it. Yeah, handling's pretty good. I could feel a little understeer starting on that corner, but nothing too crazy. We got one more sharp corner right here. Yeah, it's got pretty good grip. I'm pretty impressed with that. Obviously, I don't want to push it too far just because it's not my car. So that's probably about all the handling related stuff we'll do. We might hit this road on the way back, but overall, it feels really good. All right, we're back. Gonna go ahead, hop on the highway, get my impressions of this power that we're dealing with, and see how the car is. Luckily, I have quite a bit of experience driving some fast supercharged cars, so it won't be anything super new to me. However, I have never driven a Mustang with this type of power adder. I've driven a turbo Mustang, obviously a centrifugal supercharger Mustang, which is my own. So this instant torque will be new to me. I am a little bit worried about how loud this car is though. It's not gonna be easy to be low key about this. Tires should be nice and warm, 65 degrees out. I think we'll be good for maybe like a 40 roll. So that's what we're gonna do. A little police check. Here we go, 40 roll, second gear. Sorry my shifting isn't the best. This car, it's probably me, because I know Gavin shifts it fast, but whenever I'm in a car that's unfamiliar to me, I don't like trying to shift super fast just because I don't want to mess anything up. So granny shifting it there, it still felt really fast. It did spin a little bit. I do have traction control on. It did spin a little bit, but once it hooked, it was going. So we'll loop around, hit it one more time, hit the back roads, and then that'll pretty much be it for the video. 55 roll is what we'll do. Once you do a couple pulls, you do get used to the power though, I will say. It's not at that power level that's like super scary or anything. The initial punch down low, because of the instant torque of this setup, feels really good compared to the ESS. However, having to shift, and I know people are gonna make fun of me for this, having to shift does take away from the experience of doing pulls like that after having a 10-speed with boost. It's just, you can't compare to it. It's a cheat code. It feels like it adds 100 horsepower. But I still really like this car. I do think it feels really good. For me personally, kind of final thoughts, I don't think I would take an S650 over my old S550. I just don't think I would, especially with the prices they're selling for. It's good. Don't get me wrong. It feels really good. The most impressive part of it is the handling. All right, let's see. The turn-in feels good, but after that point, I don't know. I think it does feel good overall. It feels numb though. There is zero communication between the wheel and the front tires. Like, it's just numb. I can't get any feedback. I think that's why I get the kind of understeery feeling, because I can't feel that point of resistance like you would want to feel. I think this is, obviously, it's a GT. It's designed to be more of a grand tourer than a backroads car, like something you'd expect with a Shelby. The GT350 is way better about communicating the feel of the road. Does this handle well? Absolutely. There's no denying it, and I'm not even getting close to its limit. It just doesn't communicate the way you'd want it to, in my opinion. I do have it in sport mode. I can try putting it in track mode. We'll see if that tightens it up even more. Not really. I think, if anything, it's making the like ratio of the rack tighter. Like, you turn it less and you get more input. That's kind of what I'm feeling. Whenever you change modes, it doesn't feel any stiffer to me. It just feels a little more direct, maybe. We'll go back to sport mode. Yeah, that's exactly what it's doing. It just tightens up how much input you have to give to get the output you want. So that being said, it handles great. I just wish there was better feeling. The brake pedal feeling is not great. It's pretty spongy. This car desperately needs some stainless brake lines to make that better. That's something I had on both the Shelby and the GT. Stainless lines, they help that top end feel of the pedal, and you don't get as much fade. I'm not pushing it right now, so I'm not really getting any fade necessarily. However, I just don't feel confident hitting the brakes because it sinks in for a second, so you can't do fine inputs like you would want to. Overall, I think it's a good car. I think the chassis is improved over the S550 just based off the handling. However, the S550 and 650 do share a lot of parts. This isn't, in my book, a full revamp like they said. I mean, everything's essentially different on it. A lot of the parts are different, but it does have the same feeling as an S550. Debatably a little more numb in the drive modes, which I don't necessarily love. But yeah, as far as driving goes, I think I've kind of got a good feel for it. Feels very fast and healthy on the poles. Once tuning's unlocked in these cars, it's going to be stupid. It'll feel really fast. But for now, on 93, it's just okay. Feels really fast. Handling's pretty good, but it just feels a little more numb and electronic than the S550 even. The S197, if you really want like a raw Mustang, that's what you should go with. S550 is pretty good. This just feels really numb to me, personally. Those are my thoughts overall on this car. Do I think it's a good car? Yeah, I think it's a really good car. I don't think it's the right car for me, though. I am, for some reason, still super partial to the S550 that I had. I've regretted selling a lot of cars, but that one's top of the list. So I'm gonna try to get that car back. This just made me want to get it back even more. I did feel like, given my circumstances, I had to get something bigger with more room, aka my truck, just to be responsible for right now. I will be getting something like that in the future. I think the S550 is the one for me, but this is still a really good car. And I'm very grateful that Gavin let me borrow it for a little while. And I'm happy I got to drive one and give my thoughts on it. I know I have friends like Derek. I don't know if you're watching this, Derek, but Derek's got a 10-speed S650 with a Whipple, and I know he loves that car. I also know he's in the same boat. He used to have a Mach 1, and he really misses that car. Overall, great car. Transmission, not too bad for an MT82. Short shifter feels good. The tire setup on this car feels pretty solid, and the Whipple's great. Low end torque is great, and feels really good up top too. I think it's a really clean build. These wheels, I did not like them on the blue S650 that he had, but on this red, for some reason it works. I think the satin PPF full body on this car looks really good. The tint setup is exactly what I would do on it. So I think it looks really, really good. Just not the car for me. So I'll go ahead and I guess close out the video. If it's your first time watching, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And if you want to see more videos, stick around. I'll probably be doing some videos on my truck if that's something you guys would want to see, or more just videos like this. I've got some friends with cool cars, and I could probably convince them to let me film with them. So I could do more. I just never really post because, honestly, editing and filming takes a lot of work, especially the editing side. And so whenever you're editing for a long time on a video you're really proud of, and then it gets like 100 views, it's a little discouraging. And I do my own videos when I want to because I want to do them and I enjoy it, but it is a little hard whenever that happens. You know, obviously I'd like to grow my own content and be able to continue doing it more easily, but it just makes it a little difficult when the viewership's low. So if you want to give me a pity subscribe, I would appreciate it. But yeah, let me know what you'd want to see. I've got to give this car back in a couple weeks, so if I put this video out before then, maybe I can film another video with it or two. Big thanks again to Gavin for letting me borrow this car, and I will see you guys in the next video. Oh look, it's like Gavin's here.